Hello, folks. This is Joe from My Geek Scene. I'm here with Megaran. Megaran, how are you doing, sir?
Joe, I'm great. It's so good to chat with you. Um, Honestly, I miss people, man. I really do. That's kind of where I am right now. I'm all right. I'm doing what I can to make ends meet. I'm healthy. Family's healthy, but I really miss human interaction big time.
I hear you on that. I get enough human interaction through work, but it's not like it's human interaction with friends.
hmm My human interaction is usually based on performances, which I can't do. So that part of my like process is completely like altered, and it's something to get used to. That's for sure.
No, we'll go back to being normal. It's just gonna take time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm actually gonna start off with your latest project. Normally, I usually save that stuff for the end, but I actually wanted to talk about your latest project with Young RJ of Slum Village. Your album called Two Hands Up, which just came out. I want to say, what was it, last Friday?
Correct. Last Friday is when it released. We've been working on this for a very long time. In fact, I was with you the first day I met Young RJ in person. I was in the Detroit at that show. What city was that? It wasn't Detroit. It was
Hamtramck.
Hamtramck. No,
Yes.
we was it Hamtramck?
Oh,
I
wait,
don't
you
know.
mean like when he was at Youmacon? Is when you met
No,
him?
the show that we did. I don't remember the city. I think
Oh,
it was
Ann
right
Arbor at the
outside
Blind
Detroit.
Pig?
No, wasn't that. It was gosh, why can't I remember? It's the very last time I probably saw you besides Youmacon.
Pontiac, at the Crow's Foot.
Pontiac, there it is. He came to that show, and that was the first time we met in person. But we have been talking since then about putting this record together. So it's really been a long time. That was at least a year ago. So from there, when I got home from that tour, was when we started working on it. And RJ was just a really, really cool guy, man. Like with a extremely like historic lineage, and it was almost odd. Like I was just like, did you make a mistake? Did you fire me by accident? Like, I just never thought I'd be this close to like the J Dilla Slum Village lineage, and with us putting out a project, like it's just been insane and a huge honor. And I'm super super proud of the record. I think it brought some new things out of me that I'm excited to talk about.
No, I enjoyed the album, and thanks for giving me a sneak peek so I could review it before this interview. I mean, I dug the socially conscious approach to the majority of the album.
Thank you.
I mean, was that your intentions going into the album?
Yeah, unfortunately, when I started writing it, a lot of things were going on that we were seeing in the news. There was a lot of, a lot of Black Death, to be frank, and I remember constantly seeing that in the newspaper and in the news, and realizing that I, as an artist, hadn't really covered things like this or talked about it or reflected upon it. So I just wanted to talk about it and also bring some awareness to people who might not have known what was going on. So that's where the whole Two Hands Up came from, is that, from the movement after Mike Brown was killed. I remember there being like a hands up, don't shoot movement. And then, and we talked about the different ways that raising of the hands and what they mean. Like, I'm a former teacher, so students raise their hand in class when they want to be heard. So that's literally what we were doing with this album, is putting two hands up. Like, we really, really need to be heard here. So that combined with when people are in church and they rejoice, two hands up, so there's a lot of different actions that can lead to someone raising both hands. And we wanted to cover all of those in this album.
Cool. Some of the songs I enjoyed on there were Revival, Pray, Black is Beautiful, Storm, A Little Different, and Summer Here. And
Nice.
Algorithm, too.
Nice. That's a good amount of the record. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I enjoyed all of the record, but those were the songs that stood out to me.
Thank you. Everyone you mentioned is one of my favorites for a different reason. I have a different favorite every time I listen to it. It really depends on what mood I'm in. Black is Beautiful, The Feeling, Storm, really, really important songs to me. So But yeah, I love the way the whole thing came together.
I mean, I definitely like the message behind Revival too.
Thank you. Revival is one I almost didn't want. It was weird. It came to me. RJ had already written his verse and had a chorus, and he's like, "This is my idea. Let's work with it." And I don't know. I just didn't feel it at the initial time. I was like, I don't know. I think I don't want to say some things that have already been said. I don't want to say something with my heart's not in it. So let me go back. So I rewrote about 3 or 4 times for that verse, and I'm really happy with the way it came out. Especially between like RJ's great hook, my lyrics, his verse. Yeah, it was awesome. And then when I heard it, it didn't have the people like the vocals you hear in the beginning or the clapping. It didn't have any of that in it. And later he's like, no, it's gonna be like Revival, like in church, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. So that's when it really hit me to get back into it, and I'm really happy with how it came out.
Yeah, and listening to the guests that were on there, it made me look up. I want to say his name is L.A. Salami.
Yes. Oh, he's amazing. He's like a folk singer, the hip hop kind of guy as well. Like he does so many things. He's awesome. He's from London. I gotta shout out my manager Jeff, who hipped me to him because his roommate was his tour manager, and he's like, "You got to check this guy out." And I listened, and I was like, "Man, he's like." One minute it's like Frank Sinatra, or another minute it's like, freaking Bob Dylan. Like he's just everywhere. And I love the fact that he's so diverse. And so he's on 2 songs, but he does something completely different on 2 songs. So that just kind of shows his diversity. Shout out to LA.
Yeah, I checked out a little bit of his NPR Tiny Desk concert footage from after I was doing more research into the album.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned earlier, Algorithm, that song hits home to me.
Yeah.
Because one lyric from you that stood out was, wedding anniversary, 100 likes, new album, dropping, couple likes. And I was like, isn't that the truth?
That was too real for me, man. That's, I look at that and I'm like, wow. When people I can say I stubbed my toe and get 1,000 comments about what I should do and how, I stubbed my toe once and, oh man, that's hilarious, or something like that. But when I say, hey, here's this thing I worked on for 6 months of my life that's super important to me, people are like, yeah, okay, thanks. So and I'm sure you can relate as a content creator that we struggle and we fight against the robots every day. To be heard or to be appreciated. So it's rough. It's an uphill battle, but I've learned just to not think about it in that way. Like I can't, because it'll drive me crazy. This is a fight that I really can't win without extra deep pockets, to be able to pay Zuckerberg and whoever else for our content to be seen. So, and RJ was telling me like, it's best to just create and do what you can, and the people that are going to love it are going to love it. The people who don't know about it, they're just missing out. But once things roll in a different direction, they'll catch up, and then they'll go back to your older stuff and things like that. But you got to believe it's going to work out. I think if you create something thinking that it's not, then why even do it? So you got to be happy with it first. Please yourself, not the robots.
No, I agree. And thankfully, I've never been really one to rely on social media to drive traffic to my content, especially on the website. I mean, looking at my analytics, it's all my traffic mainly comes from just Google searches and stuff like that. I mean, there's been interviews that I've been super proud of and I put out and I'm like, hey, here you go. This is awesome. Please check this out. And I'll see quite a lot of likes. But then I look at likes versus people who have actually taken the time to view it, and it's completely different. And it's a little disappointing at times. But I hear you on that.
Yeah, you can't worry about it too much, man. Worry about the people who did hear it and what they thought, and not the people who didn't. And I've had some conversations with so many artists that I look up to and that may look up to me as a mentor, and I tell them like, if you got to fall in love with the process. And as long as you're in love with the process of creating, then the results, your results aren't going to matter as much. So you got to love what you do and do what you love. And hopefully the views will come.
No, yeah, I've never set out to be like super successful. You know, I'm not signing a $100 million Spotify podcast deal like Joe Rogan did recently. That's
Not
never been
yet,
my
not
thing.
yet though.
Yeah,
just
but
just wait.
I, I never set out to be rich. It's just I want to put out good interviews. That's been my main goal from
That's
day
what
one.
that's the way it should be, man. A lot of people can learn from that, man. People get so frustrated when they don't get the numbers they want. And I said anytime, gosh, it was who was it? Quincy Jones was talking about when they were working on like albums with Michael Jackson and all these people, and how Michael always wanted to follow up Thriller. He wanted the numbers to be bigger than Thriller. And and Quincy said that the moment that in the middle of creativity, you're talking about how much you're going to make or how much you think it's going to sell, then he said God leaves the room. And I thought that was interesting. He said all the soul will be sucked out of what you create the moment you start thinking about how much it's going to make or how many people are going to like it. And I'm like, I think he's right.
No, never even thought about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good point. But you mentioned earlier in this interview the Slum Village lineage. So, what was going through your mind when you visited J Dilla's house and the Motown Museum when you were in Detroit last year?
Oh man, that was an awesome time. So we got out pretty early, but we had a full schedule at Youmacon. Shout out to Youmacon for bringing us out last time I was in Detroit. I actually got the chance to get a lot of things done that helped make this album better during that trip. Well, one, we shot a video. We shot the video for Prey. We also shot a second video, and I got a chance to meet RJ, his family, and he took me on a ride through Conant Gardens, through their neighborhood. And the last stop was J Dilla's house. You know, it was this corner house, very, unassuming house. And he's like, man, this is it. This is the place. Like, this basement was popping. And I'm like, what do you mean popping? He's like, dude, I would be sitting on the couch and Common would show up. Questlove from The Roots would show up. Most Def or anybody that you name it, what that was like making noise and conscious hip hop, Q-Tip, like all these people that I look up to would just show up. And Dilla would show them around and like pick out records and they would just start making beats together. And he's like, man, there's so much history. And then he showed me their high school. And he's like, man, this is where I was in school. And JD would come and pull me out of class sometimes to come and work on a record, or to get my opinion on how these drums sounded, or because I couldn't find something or he couldn't find something. So it was just amazing. It was really like magical. And riding around the neighborhood, he even made a comment like, yeah, it's pretty messed up around here, right? Like just because there was like dilapidation and, graffiti and abandoned buildings. And I was like, no, I think that's part of what makes what you guys create so beautiful, is that it comes out of this. And, and I talked to him about that. I was like, why do you think Detroit has so many amazing musicians? Like, when you and I were in Hamtramck, I think that whole lineup was local acts, and each one blew me away. From Novelist to Mark Cooper there's so many people that are super talented in Detroit, and I was like, why do you think that is? And he's just like, man, because we don't have many opportunities, so we take every opportunity we get super serious, and we go super hard on it. And we feel overlooked. We feel slept on, that chip on the shoulder, which I know a lot about being from Philadelphia. We had that with New York. We're like, we're the little stepsister, little brother city that never gets talked about. So that puts a bit of a chip on our shoulder that becomes a motivator. So he's like, but through all this, like through this destruction and dilapidation in Detroit, we've been able to make something beautiful out of it. And that's what even the title of the group, the Slum Village, was all about. It's just making a beautiful corner out of something so like wrecked and dilapidated. And I thought that was beautiful, man. Like it was really an awesome experience. And that helped to frame my thinking for the creation of the Two Hands Up album, for sure.
Were there any particular J Dilla songs or albums that had an effect on you or resonated with you?
Well, I loved his beats. I mean, his beat style in general was so soulful, and Dilla did tracks like Running for the Far Side, Can't Keep Running Away. Um, Songs that like really hit me at a young age. Like this is a song about like being bullied as a kid, you know, and but just done in a really, really cool way. Like it's exactly what nerdcore rappers talk about, you know, and not being the coolest kid in school and how sometimes like eventually you can't keep running. Like you might have to face this fear, you know, and I thought it was just so well done between that. He did De La Soul, Stakes is High, like so many like just brilliant records that and he never sounded the same in any of them. You know, his versatility was always something that I took to heart, being like, yo, this guy can make 10 huge records for people and none of them sound the same. And I always wanted to be that type of artist and producer.
Okay. So I want to switch gears and talk about another album that you did in the past that leaned away from the nerdcore roots. It was your RNDM album, or your random album. So while I was listening to that, I felt there was a theme of legacy in a few tracks such as Infinite Lives, Rushmore, Revisions, and for Revisions, more along the lines of legacy in the form of future knowledge, and The Promised Land. Was the theme of legacy what you had in mind when you wrote the album?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, not initially, but I realized as I was writing, I was just like, oh, wow, this is time for me. I knew this was a big step album, like going to be a moment, like either a turning point or a cornerstone record in my career. So even from the cover, everything's pretty deliberate. You know, it's a half 8-bit and half regular face, being like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, which way am I stepping? Like, who's the real me? The real Raheem is hiding in there somewhere. And yeah, it's a record that I put out. Gosh, I'm trying to think. 2015 for me, I was turning 38 when it came out. It was a time where I thought, I'm not still going to be making music this long. I didn't think that going into it. So I thought this might be my last album. Like how much I got to say everything I need to say. I say things on Revisions that I've been scared to say for a long time about the educational system. Talking about infinite lives and the idea of just like living on beyond your works. There's a lot of talk about like, if it's over for me, like if I get fired, meaning like no one wants to buy this album, I'll hopefully live forever through my past works and things like that. So absolutely, legacy has been a big part of what I was thinking. Rushmore, with me mentioning all the top guys that in our subgenre, was really important to me because you know, folks don't get their flowers, and while they're alive and can still smell them anyway. And I wanted to make sure to do that for those guys because they've paved the way big time, you know. And I hope, you know, when it's over for me, that somebody will put me up on Rushmore, you know. But at the same time, whether they do or not, I want to still be able to pay homage to those people before me. You mentioned, what else did you mention?
Said Revisions and The Promised Land.
Oh, Promised Land is definitely about legacy. It's about how, you know, it's a big old allegory that I wrote about finding this amazing land and then eventually instituting rules and structure, and no one wants to hear that, and then they kick you out. So it's like the other side of Infinite Lives, you know, like, what if they don't care about what Mega Ran has to say, and you know, and they decide to move on without me and change it and make it even better? So, yeah, it's definitely was a huge theme for me. Like legacy and how I'm going to be remembered is something I kind of started thinking about around the time of recording that, and now it really goes into everything I put out because I never want to. I think I read somewhere that you never want to think, at least I don't, that for people you support their art, that you don't know where they stand, you know? And I just thought about that, like, wow, like what if, you know, like I really love Will Smith, but like, how could I really say that I love him without knowing how he feels about family or how he feels about this, you know? So I just didn't want there to be any mistakes if it was over for me. I didn't want anybody to mix it up and be like, well, I'm not exactly sure how Rand felt about education, or I'm not exactly sure how he felt about religion, or about nerdcore, about music. I just didn't want there to be any ambiguity. So I wanted to make sure that all of my opinions were laid out. And that's really what that album was about for me.
Okay. What was the meaning behind the song A Poet?
A Poet came from a James Weldon Johnson poem that he wrote where he was begging his future son to not become a writer, stating that, you're constantly going to be misunderstood. You're going to have to defend yourself all the time. Like, when you put your thoughts out into the world, it would be like me telling someone not to be a rapper. That's what I started thinking about, like all the negative sides of things and how you can be misunderstood. And the same way, it's like, you got to tell your story or else someone else can write it for you. And you can't let that happen. So that's where the poet came from. It's an imaginary tale to a son that I don't have about what I would tell them about being a writer. And in the process of that, it brought up some really tough memories for me of it's funny because I was just writing about this in my book that's coming soon, who knows when, but that of a story of how I almost was a father, and then that someone else had other plans, and how that happened for me, and how now I looked at it then at 38 being like, man, well, if I don't have kids now, maybe this is a situation where I won't ever have kids. So maybe my music will be my kids. And that's what I took into writing that song, A Poet. Thanks for bringing that up. That's an extremely personal song to me, but a song that I'm very, very, very proud of.
Oh, cool, man. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I was definitely one of those things. I was like, when I get to interview him again, I definitely wanted to talk to him about that. I mean, side note, it's like I bought that album from you the second time I met you when it was at the Blind Pig show in Ann Arbor. Mm-hmm. And that was when I planted the seeds of a potential first interview with you. That was, I remember driving out there specifically just to catch your show and to talk to you about that. So I'm glad that came into fruition a while ago. So another song on Random, or is it RNDM or is it Random?
It's Random, but I do understand that since without the vowels, people just spell it out and just say RNDM. But yes, it's pronounced Random for me.
Okay, so for your song Miscommunication, the song transitions into an organ piece that was different from the rest of the song at the end. Is that going to be a piece that you revisit, or will it be like Earned by Childish Gambino, where it's a short piece that sounds really good, but it's never touched again?
It's probably never going to be touched again, to be honest. That was, I don't remember who did it or who helped me with it, but that was a Kickstarter reward. What we did was we had 3 or 4 Kickstarter people who had the right to a privilege to be able to play on the album. And so what I wanted to do, instead of just mixing their pieces in, so it's like blatantly where you could barely hear them, I wanted it to be deliberate. And so I made their pieces be extensions onto the songs and onto their favorite song of the record. So if you notice, there's one at the end of OP where there's that Game Boy melody, blum, 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 blum. And so there's 3 of those on the album that are just pieces that were inserted after the album was done that I really liked and wanted to fit them at the end of that person's favorite song.
Okay.
A little bit of an Easter egg there.
I guess so. So last song on that album, from your song Same As It Ever Was, it featured a collab with Michiru Yamane of Castlevania fame. How did that collaboration come about?
Wow, it's a dream collab for sure. I met Yamane-san in Tokyo. No, maybe Kyoto? I'm not sure. Somewhere in Japan during a tour. My friend Jerry Aska, who's helped to set up an entire tour, told me that he was going to reach out to her and see if we can get her to come to our show. And I'm just like, whatever, dude. You don't have to tell me that. Let's just do the show. And sure enough, she comes with her sister, and they sit down and we talk for an hour about just music and what she was thinking when she did Castlevania, what else she's been working on, and man, it was just like the most awesome time. And she told me stay in touch, if you ever need anything. And I'm like, whoa, don't say that, because I probably will be in touch. And so I did. I finished the album, and I didn't have an intro. Actually, the original intro was going to be completely different. If I didn't get her involved, I wasn't going to do the piano intro. I had a song. Gosh, what was it called? I don't even remember. But it was totally different. It's never going to come out. You know what? It might be on Patreon somewhere. I did a song called 1977. And it's produced by Fresh Kills of Toronto. And that was going to be my intro. It was me talking about all the things that happened in the year 1997 or 1977. And then it would end with my birth. And it's a weird concept, but it was a lot of fun to create. But it didn't quite set the mood for what I wanted to do on the album. So I talk about Star Wars in the beginning and all that. So I was like, you know what? People are going to misconstrue this a little bit. So I want this intro to be about me. And so I decided on a piano piece, and I sent her the request, like, all right, so I would love to have you play piano. And she's like, well, like, what's the style? What's the vibe? And I was like, oh, kind of sad, but kind of reflective, maybe about 81 beats per minute. I tried to give her like as much information as I could. And then she sent me 3 takes of it, and they were all amazing. So like maybe at some point I'll use the other takes, but in like 24 hours, she sent me 3 takes. And she's like, how long? I was like, oh, maybe about 1:30. And she did an amazing job. She's a genius, and one of my biggest inspirations. And it was an honor to be able to sit and talk with her. But then for her to appear on my record was like, what? Insane.
Yeah, one of the lyrics actually stands out to me from that song in particular, and actually serves as inspiration for me from time to time, is when you said, wake up and smash the day. And I'm like, I feel that.
Absolutely, man. I used to, I never really knew what depression was growing up. But I've definitely been through some times working on music where I just didn't feel like I wanted to wake up, or I didn't want to do what I had to do in that day. And now, now that I feel like I've sort of found my purpose, I wake up every day thinking like, oh, I got to smash it. I got to kill it. Like, oh, I'm ready, so it happens every day for me now. I mean, sometimes later than others, but it happens where I'm like, I got to get up. I got to kill it. I got to smash it. So, yeah.
Well, man, since we were talking about this collaboration with Michiru Yamane, that leads into my next topic. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is one of my all-time favorite games, and I loved your Nocturnal Cantata album. So, thank you for creating a song around Dance of Pails. Thank you. I mean, that's like my favorite track from the Castlevania soundtrack.
Nice. Thank you. That one was like the final track to get done, and that's one of the few. There's only like 2 that Samus didn't like do the beat for. I did that one myself because we were done the album, and I thought it sounded great, but Dance of Pails is my favorite song from the soundtrack. And she didn't do anything with that one, so I was like, oh, I don't want to ask her again to do something else, so I'm not going to bother her, but I'm going to sit down and work on this myself. And so I did, and it came out really cool. We did a video for that song. It's a fun track for me. Like, it's, being able to tell my story amidst a Castlevania album was weird, so it didn't, for me, fully fit. I felt like it was like more of a bonus track kind of thing, but I was glad to do it because that was my favorite song on the soundtrack.
Were there any stage themes that you wanted to include, but they were just left out? I mean, I love Crystal Teardrop.
I like Crystal Teardrop as well. Some of them just didn't work out. Like they didn't really translate to hip hop beats like I thought they were, and they would. Or Crystal Teardrop's one of them, where like I was like, it's not quite working. I think we got to work on it a little more, and then like it just didn't come together. So we're like, well, maybe we'll give this a go again, at another time. But who knows?
All right. You mentioned that you would like to see a remake of Symphony of the Night. Why? Isn't that game almost perfect?
Did I say that? Did I say I want a remake?
I read that in an interview.
Well, they kind of did. I think Bloodstained is darn close. I like Bloodstained a lot. I don't necessarily want to see a remake per se, but you could give me the exact same game on PS4 and Xbox with like some updated graphics, and I'd be totally fine. Like exact same. Like don't Final Fantasy 7 it. Like just the exact same game, and I'll be absolutely fine with it.
Yeah, because I've been asking people about like remakes. If it was like a 2D platformer, would you want to keep the original sprite graphics, or would you like it to transition into like hand drawn animation while still 2D?
So like Streets of Rage, sort of.
Or I want to say yes that, or King of Fighters either 13 or 14 when they took it and made it completely hand drawn.
I do dig hand drawn. I do, as long as they keep it 2D. I think that could be cool. I would appreciate that.
Okay. So, you said you enjoyed Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Have you started? Did you finish it, or have you been waiting for like the patch to finally fix everything to come out? Because I got very far into the game. I'm near the end, but it's just like I'm gonna hold off until they finally fix everything.
Yeah, it started glitching out for me on Switch, and that really turned me off. I really originally started playing it on. So what happened? Let me take it further back. I backed it on Kickstarter.
Same.
Um, I got a copy on. I don't know. They didn't send my code for Switch for a really long time, so I didn't want to wait any longer. So I got it on Steam. I started playing it on Steam. Had a really good time with it. Hit a couple of glitches. Stopped. Then they sent me the code for Switch. I finally downloaded, start playing, and it's even glitchier than before. So I stopped again, and honestly, I haven't come back. But I put in a good 10, 12 hours on Steam. Like, so I would love to go back to it, but I don't know. I just wasn't sure, and I didn't want to waste any time, doing something that might get like frozen up on or not saved. And so I just wanted to be careful about approaching it. So I don't know. I feel like it kind of burned me because I was really, really, really digging the game. And I just decided to stop for a bit.
Oh, I have it for the PS4. I don't really think I encountered any game-breaking glitches. It's just I got so far into it, and then I was like, okay. And then I just stopped playing for some reason. And I was like, I'll come back to this later.
Yeah, I feel like it is a fun game to come back to because I remember really enjoying it. Like I put in some hard time on it. So at some point, now there's just too many games coming out, and I don't have time, but I would love to go back to it.
All right, well, speaking of revisiting, have you revisited the Capcom game Trojan? And would you take the music and turn it into a beat?
Trojan was a good game. I watched, I don't know why, I must have been, maybe we had a discussion about it or something, but I watched a video of someone beating it in like 15 minutes, and that was fun. But I have not revisited that game. I'd like to because I remember it being cool. I think it's the first game I ever bought for NES because it was $20, and my mom would only buy me a bargain bin game, and I liked it, but I don't remember the music. So now I need to go back and take a listen and see if I'd still work with it.
Do you still feel that the Dreamcast is the best system of all time? And if so, why?
Well, I feel like Dreamcast was ahead of its time. I feel like it had the best launch lineup of all time. And I may be biased because I won a Dreamcast because there was a GameSpot contest where, like, if you found this little spot on their website, you found it at some point and responded quick enough, they would send you a Dreamcast. And I was like, oh, there's no way I won this. They're like, you won. And I'm like, no, I didn't win. And sure enough, like 2 weeks later, they mailed me a Dreamcast. I couldn't believe it. So I might be a little biased, but honestly, I say all that to say that was my bias speaking. It's still my favorite system. I don't think it's the greatest. The greatest would be the Super Nintendo.
All right. Well, then, question was even on my list. Well, what games did you enjoy for the Dreamcast?
Oh, man. You talk about a game that needs to be rebooted. Jet Set Radio.
Yes.
For sure. I'm so ready for a reboot of that. Gosh, what else? The sports games were great. The 2K games. Sonic Adventure was awesome. Resident Evil Code Veronica. Power Stone. I mean, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Like so many great games on the Dreamcast that I loved a lot. You know, it was like take the next level of like the arcade style gaming. And man, I played the first place. That's the first system I played Quake on, and Doom. What else? Gosh, just so many. But yeah, those are my favorites for sure. Even the wrestling game wasn't so bad on there. WWF Royal Rumble was fun. But yeah, and then I found Soldier of Fortune. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you heard of this game. First person shooter, one player. I think it was a PC game first. It's extremely bloody and gory. I mean, you shoot people in the face and you see bullet in face. It's gross, but it took forever to load, but it was so fun. Yeah, Soldier of Fortune. And then I started importing games when I found out you could import. I got Fire Pro Wrestling D on there and Fantasy Star Online. Oh, man. So many good games.
The one game that I wish I would have been able to play, because I still have a Dreamcast, was the sequel to Rival Schools.
Oh. Did that never come out on in the US?
I don't know. I mean, at the time, I don't think I even had access to it, and I'm pretty sure if I look into it now, I could find it, but I really don't feel like dropping well over $100 on a Dreamcast game.
No, I don't know when I found it out, but there was we had a boot disc. There was an idea where that came about on the internet that if you got this boot disc, then you could play bootlegs on the Dreamcast. So all someone had to do was burn a game onto a blank CD, and then once you had a boot disc, you could play it. So I'm sure you could find someone that'll burn you a copy of the Rival Schools sequel.
Yeah, actually, I did that in the past. I was somehow able to play the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game on the Dreamcast because they had burned it onto a CD for me.
What? Okay,
back in the day.
I didn't know that you could even do that. That's cool.
So my next question is, what games have you emotionally bonded with, or what gaming moments have left an emotional impact on you?
Wow. Well, I haven't felt anything emotional since or as emotional as Final Fantasy VII when Aerith dies, you know. I haven't, but you know what though, if I could say a close one, BioShock has some really emotional tying moments to me as well. That's a game that I would revisit, play again, and maybe even like sample and make music from. Because I really enjoyed the experience of the first BioShock. What else? I don't know. These days, I play games differently than I did back in the day, where I was able to just rip off 5, 6, 7 hours on a game, not eat, not do anything. You know, now I got too much to do, so I can't. You know, I can't get emotionally invested, I don't think, in games as much as I used to. But I'm not gonna lie. I was like a week into Animal Crossing New Horizons, and when Isabelle appears on the island the first time, and I won't even give it away how it happens, but it's a simple thing, and then she does it every day after that. But it's a moment where you're like, oh, it's Isabelle, yay! You know, like it's almost like walking through Disney World and then seeing Mickey. You know, you're like, and that magic just comes back to you. So honestly, that's the last time where I got a real emotional moment. And as lame as that sounds, it was Isabelle.
So Isabelle popped you. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Like, because I didn't know when or if it was ever going to happen. You know, they've been advertising Isabelle as a big part of this new game, but she's not there when you first pop it on. So you're like, well, yeah, okay, well, maybe she's not there. And then when she comes, it's like, yes.
Oh, I've never played any of the Animal Crossing games.
Oh, you got to play. You got to play it. This game has overtaken my life. Even my wife's into it, and she's not into games at all.
All right, so I have to ask you this question again, because I did when I talked to you at MagFest earlier this year when we were just sitting down and just shooting the breeze. Underrated video games.
Underrated. You know what? Maybe if you gave me like systems to choose from, I could probably nail this down better.
Fine.
But
PlayStation 3.
Oh wow, PlayStation 3. It's very specific. Okay. Well,
I like how you're like, give me some systems, and I'm like, all right, you got one. Oh, that's very specific.
right. It is very specific. Okay. So
Or if you want to go with
PS3.
PlayStation,
Okay. Let me think. Let me think. I don't think I was even really playing. I don't know if PlayStation is the best place for me to go with these, but I can give you a couple games, I think. How about hmm gosh, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Now I'm trying to think about it. Okay. Did you ever play the Resistance games on PS3?
no, my brother did.
And I don't know if I can call them underrated because I think there's like three of them, but nobody I know talks about them, So I'm gonna say I would go Resistance because I liked all those games and none of my friends ever talked about them. PS3 and also I think it was it Dreamcast? Valkyria Chronicles.
Okay.
This game, incredible. I've bought it probably 5 times. Anytime I ever see it somewhere, I just pick it up just for the nostalgia. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was it on PS3 or was that PS4? The first uh what is that? Not is it Mirror's Edge? No, was it Mirror's Edge?
I want to say it's Mirror's Edge. Didn't
Okay.
it start off on the PS3 and then went to the PS4 for like a sequel?
Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna say Mirror's Edge because that was fun. But yeah, those are probably my favorite PS3 level games that were super underrated, I think.
I mean, if you want other systems, you can throw out games from other systems. I mean,
I don't know. Give me a system. I'll try to think of a underrated game for it.
the Wii.
Oh God, I didn't even play the Wii, so I don't know. Um, Wii bowling. No. I didn't play anything besides bowling and tennis on there. Um, so yeah, I don't know what's on the Wii. Honestly, to me, because I haven't played what's the Mario on there? Was it Mario Sunshine?
I want to. That's for the
Or
GameCube.
Galaxy?
I want to say Mario Galaxy. I never played
Okay.
that.
Never played it. Like I mean, these games are probably good because Mario games are always good. I feel really bad that I haven't. I hope they re-released them on Switch or something. Was it okay? PS2. What was the ATV motocross game? That
Off
was
road.
so fun. ATV off road.
I want to say
Yeah.
yes, but don't quote me on it. I never played it.
All right. Super fun game. Um, Gosh. Yeah, that's all I got.
No, that's fair. I mean, because like I had mentioned to you, and I believe I sent you a trailer for it after MagFest, was that game Puppeteer for the PlayStation 3.
Oh yeah.
That's a game that didn't get enough love, in my opinion, and I think it's fantastic.
So a question though, unfortunately, I don't know any other way to get to these games that are underrated if I want to play them, like through like legal means. So like what do you do when you want to play an underrated PS3 title today? You got to go buy a PS3 and find the game?
You can find the game, and I believe you could still buy it off the PlayStation Network. It's like
Mm.
$14.99 off the PlayStation Network. It's
Oh.
probably roughly closer to 20 if you buy it off of like say Amazon.
Okay. Well, that's good that they still have those games available. That's good.
Yeah, I haven't bought a game for the PlayStation 3 in years. And a game that I had talked to Kyle about this, is a game that I felt that was severely underrated was Kirby's Epic Yarn for the Wii. You know, they recently reintroduced that to the 3DS, but
Yeah, it looked really good, but I never played it though. But it looked really cool.
it's a fantastic soundtrack, honestly.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it caught me off guard because I would never expect like a fantastic soundtrack with Kirby. Yes, Kirby has some cool themes and stuff like that, but um, the amount of like effort that they put into making the soundtrack just blew my mind. I mean, sure, it was designed to be strictly a kids game, and they could have been like, hey, a couple of bleeps and bloops, and we'll call it good. But
Mhm.
like they went all out with just analog instruments, a lot of piano, a lot of acoustic
Wow.
guitar, it's just really really good.
Wow. Speaking of good soundtrack games or game soundtracks, I didn't even play the game, but a friend of mine mentioned it in the Discord, and I can't stop playing the menu music. It's Pac-Man Champion Edition 2.
Really?
So this has a really good menu song. Like I'll send it to you when we get off, but like it's a really catchy track.
No, I'm definitely down for that.
Now I want to play the game, so I'll probably wind up downloading the game.
Do you have any favorite indie games?
Celeste is my thing right now, which should have been my thing for a long time. I remember interviewing with Kind of Funny, and I guess it was a year ago. Maybe, I don't know, is that game a year old now or maybe 2 years? I don't know.
I think it's about 2.
Okay, so it was whatever the first year it came out. They were like, this is my game of the year. And it came out in like February. And I was like, all right, relax. And they were like, no, you don't understand. This game is incredible. From the soundtrack, the gameplay, the story, like everything's great. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to get to it. And I bought it, but I just didn't play it. I don't know. There was just something else going on. And I just got back into it, like literally 3 months ago. And it's really good. Oh, man, I love Celeste so much. It's really just a beautiful game. So much character, clean sprites, just really cute and amazing soundtrack that I play even when I'm not playing the game.
See, it's on my list of my wish list on my PlayStation Network account of games to get, but just I'm waiting for it to go on sale, and plus I have such a huge back catalog of games to actually finish.
Yeah, but I think you should definitely treat yourself because it's so good. But yeah, I understand totally having the backlog, and that's what led to me just getting back to this game because I downloaded it like a year ago, and I just was like, you know what? I was about to go to bed, and I was like, well, let me play it a little bit, and man, I just really fell in love with it.
Okay, were there any games that you've regret buying?
I don't like
Superman.
I don't like to be negative in an interview. That's mean.
Oh, that's fair.
But a good friend of mine was like, you know, why not? I hate to like name drop a bad game, but a friend of mine was like, hey, this game's on sale for like $1.50 on Switch. You should get it. And it's called Not Another Zombie Defense HD. I think it was on like Xbox 360 and they like ported it over. This is like the simplest, most one-dimensional, not fun game ever. You like set up all these like barricades to keep out zombies, and then you just face wave after wave. And none of the weapons are good except the freaking first gun you start with. So the more you think you're getting good weapons, they just really mess you up. So it's just like feels like a real big task to try to play this game. So I don't like it at all. So that would be the one thing. Yeah. I want my $1.50 back.
I regret buying El Shaddai for the PS3. It was definitely one of those games that was style over substance, and like as I was playing it, the plot became so convoluted that I was confused by the time not even before the game was done. I was just thoroughly confused, and I just finished it just to say I was done with it.
Wow. Well, I mean, at least you got some play out of it then. You know, there's games that I just like, all right, I need to delete this, or I'm never going to play this again. I just also got back to, maybe earlier this year, was Inside. Do you remember Inside?
I love that game.
So good. And just because I hadn't beat it, and I was like, well, I guess got stuck, and I'm so against going to like Game Facts or YouTube for tips. So I get myself stuck at a point in the game, and I don't want to review, or I don't want to find out how to get through it. I just want to figure it out. And so that got me stuck on Inside. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to YouTube, figure out how to get through this level, and then keep playing. And so I did. And man, I'm really glad I did. Such a like really fulfilling experience.
All right. Well, I guess side subject on that one. So you've beaten the game, correct?
Yeah.
Did you get the secret ending too?
No, I got the bad ending, and then I didn't go back for the good ending.
Okay. So I guess a little bit spoiler alert. What were your thoughts on the original ending? Like, it was just building and building and building, and then what happened.
Yeah. It started getting weirder and weirder, which was cool. Like, I don't think I expected a whole lot of like exposition or explanation. So I was okay with the ending, just being like, oh, you're rolling and then up, you just stop and it's over, So, but it got super weird, like the last few like levels, which was cool though. I thought it was fun. I have no complaints with that game at all, even with the bad ending.
I mean, like, I like Playdead's games. I mean, Limbo I thought was fantastic.
Hmm.
And I'm looking forward to their next game. I don't know what the name of it is, but I know it's based around, like, space and aliens.
Nice. Oh yeah, I love everything they do, so I'm looking forward to it.
So we're almost winding down with this interview. You once mentioned that one of your greatest achievements in gaming was that you beat Narc at an arcade. Are there any significant achievements in gaming you have accomplished?
Uh, let's see. Related, I think. Well, I mean, it doesn't really count. It was unlimited credits, but I finally beat X-Men, the arcade game, with a bunch of friends at a barcade. But we needed all the credits we could get for that. This was in in Arkansas. This place that I don't remember the name of this place, but in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and we went five. I think we had 5 or 6 players, and we beat it. And that's the first time I'd ever seen the ending of that game. But you know what? I think as far as like accomplishments in a game, I've never platinumed a video game. I just don't think I have the time or the attention span. But I got really close in Spider-Man on PS4. So I will put that up there as an accomplishment. I got really close. I'm like 3 away from platinuming.
I've never tried platinuming a game. It's just like, I'm not really interested. I just rather play the game and enjoy the game instead of getting so frustrated trying to get some ridiculously hard achievement. It's just not for me.
Yeah, I mean the reward for that isn't super great. It's just like, hey, you did this thing. All right, congrats. Now go do something else.
Are there any improvements that you would like to see from the gaming industry?
I think that the gaming industry is doing a pretty good job when it comes to like diversity and things like that. I love that we see a lot more like women protagonists. We see people of color protagonists. I would like to see that continue, and also into different body shapes of protagonists. It's a silly thing, but like in a wrestling game, I like to try to make a really big fat guy, and they don't always let you do that. So why can't I? And I don't know, freaking Mass Effect per se. If I want my guy to be huge, I should be able to do that. So I would like for them to open up to different body types as well. I think that would be a cool adjustment to see going forward.
Okay. So you mentioned it earlier in this interview. Thoughts on the Final Fantasy VII Remake? I just recently finished that game myself.
It was really good, man. I think it was worth the wait. It got really weird at the end, but I kind of expected that. They wanted to give you like the fan service and all the things you wanted in the first one. And now I think it's just going to really get weird from here. But there's some moments in that game. I think I probably had some emotional moments in that game. Just being able to look up and see the plate in Midgar, I'm amazed at the sheer size and scope of the game. Yeah, I've definitely had some emotional moments where I was just like, oh my God, So I'm 100% pleased with the game. I just wish that we knew when the next one was coming.
For sure. I don't want to go into spoiler territory on that. Not at least in this interview.
Nah.
But I enjoyed 95% of the game I was completely cool with.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, it got a little weird at the end, and we both know what we're talking about on this one,
Mm-hmm.
But I will have to say, alluding back to soundtracks earlier, I thought the soundtrack for that game was actually fantastic. To the point that I actually went out and pre-ordered the 8-disc special edition soundtrack.
Nice. So. I want to grab it too. The music was great. I was absolutely super satisfied with the soundtrack.
So, and this relates to, I guess, my last topic, your upcoming Black Materia Remake album.
Yes. What's the question?
Well, I guess for those who don't know, I mean, you already had Black Materia. You did that in the past, and now you're redoing it. So if you wanted to give like not a spiel, I don't like that word per se, but if you want to talk about that a little bit as we're ending this interview.
Okay. So in 2011, I did an album called Black Materia, which is kind of recapping the game through different perspectives, and as well as how those topics and stories in the game kind of related to my own story. So I was able to inject myself like into the storyline. We had a lot of fun with it. It's some of my favorite stuff I've ever done. And with the remake announced, I got to work on a remake of the album. So in the process, I have created an album that I think is almost too big. You know, it's more than one disc at this point. Much like the game, and it's now going to extend. And I don't know. We have to figure out if we're going to cut songs or if we're going to just do the whole thing. We've thought about releasing it episodic, but no one seems to want that. They want the whole thing at once. So I think we're going to do that. And I've put the album in the hands of DJ Cutman, who runs Game Chops, the record label, and they're experts at releasing video game remixes. So I've been every day like listening to mixes and examples and songs from him that he has sent back to me. So now we send files back and forth. I don't have a release date yet because I want this to be perfect, and it will be, or at least as close as I can get. So I'd say, at least for people who backed on Kickstarter, you should be able to get it in June. The rest of you, who knows when. But I couldn't really think of how much stuff I wanted to add from the remake. You know, like there are some times where the story takes a different turn. So I did add a little bit, but I also kept most of it in its original form. But I'm super, super pleased with the tracks. There's tracks from K Murdoch, tracks from Robo Rob, Lost Perception, Rifty Beats, and it's great, man. This is going to be the last time that I go back to the Black Materia well, and it will be much deserved and much worth the wait. So they'll be coming out on CD as well as vinyl, and these really cool looking, I don't know if you could see my camera, but these really cool looking USB drives that are in the shape of Buster Swords. And there's another one that is in the shape of Barrett's arm cannon. So be on the lookout for that by the summer.
Okay. Actually, let's go back into the Final Fantasy VII Remake real quick. So what were your thoughts on the depiction of Barret?
Oh, man. It kind of made my skin crawl, to be honest. But you know, I will say at least there was a black man playing him. But honestly, I remember beforehand being, you know, kind of pushing like a very small movement, like, oh, it would be awesome if I could play Barret or something like that. Wouldn't that be cool? And I'm kind of glad I didn't. Like, I don't think I'd have been able to pull this off. You know, like there are some lines and some moments where it gets a little cringeworthy and sad because there's so many great voice actors in this. And a lot of them are doing a really, really great job. I just think the script that this gentleman was handed and the direction he was given was a little too exaggerated for my taste. And you know, that's what the original was. Like he was like an overblown Mr. T or depiction of what we think like the loud, angry black guy is. So I was a little disappointed, but not really, because that's kind of how it's always been. So yeah, I don't know. What'd you think?
When I was like looking at Barret, and it goes back to, and I'm not throwing him under the bus. Kyle said to me once, it's like he feels that people of different background don't know how to write for black people. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and no, I'm not trying to be controversial here. Yeah, he's like, Japanese people don't know how to write for black people. And I can see where he's coming from because, obviously, and I don't want to come off as ignorant, so that's why I'm trying to be careful how I'm saying this. It's like, if you're in a country that doesn't have a huge black population, and your access to what black people are like is like the media, then you're not really going to get the subtle nuances of how a culture is. You're just going to get what the media shows you, and what media is not really known for being truthful or factual when depicting how people are. They're just going for sensationalism and whatnot. So a lot of times when you see black people in the media, they're there for entertainment, they're stereotypical, ignorant. Yeah. So I can see like where he's coming from. So when I was listening to the game, watching the game and listening to Barrett's voice actor, I agree with you that guy did a good job with what he was given. But when I was watching Barret, it's just not like, it's not a nuanced character. He is really over exaggerated and stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's very over the top. But yeah, I don't know if I can give them the excuse of, well, it's Japanese people writing for a black character. Well, I don't know, especially with a game this big and this culturally important. I don't think it would have been very difficult for Square America, in the US to reach out and have some, American blacks on the team to talk about some things. But there are some great moments of representation. There are NPCs in the game that are black. There are NPCs that are of all different races, which I really, really appreciated. And even during their voice, like when they do have voice moments, you can tell, you know what I mean? But it's not, oh, well, he's got to be a black guy. So, oh man, it's damn Shinra, But there are some great moments with the NPCs and things that show me, especially I think it's in the Shinra building. There are like a few moments where there's like an Asian woman, there's a black man, there's I really, really appreciated that. So there are some times where I'm like, okay, they must have got some insight and some input from Square of North America, so I wish they would have on Barret, but that's just what it is.
Well, we still have a few more installments, so maybe things might change.
What, you think Barrett's going to completely change up? Well, I think that we should we should probably attack the reactor this way. I'll calm down a little bit. You guys said I was too excited last week, so I'm just going to calm down.
No, more along the lines of like, I'm sure they're gonna show his interactions with Dine and how he ended up with the gun arm.
Yeah, they got to show that.
So, and that's definitely a more emotional side of Barret instead of like, oh, I'm gonna be Bojangles over here. It's gonna. I think, I'm a little leery going into the future of the remake, but I'm still going to give it a chance. To see. I hope that they still do like the big moments from the original game,
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't want them to change too much, but I do understand them wanting to give us some surprises. Like, you can't just give them the exact same game. There's a little bit of a scare. I don't want to talk about it, of course, but there is a moment where I kind of like grasp my heart, like, wait, what? No. And then it's like a bit of a false alarm. So I do appreciate those moments where they took some time to give us something a little different.
Okay. So as we're wrapping this up, if people wanted to find out more about you, where could they go online?
Best place to go is megaran.com. But to get up to the minute updates on me and what I'm doing or what I'm eating for breakfast, you can go to Twitter. And that's at Megaran, even though it looks like Meg Ryan when you look at it really closely, but it's not. It's Megaran there, and Instagram. And lately I've been on Twitch a lot too, so come through and watch me play games that I suck at. Today I was playing Super Mario Maker and just playing people's levels, and that's been a lot of fun. So yeah, I do a different game every day, and then I do some live performances as well. So Twitch and Twitter are probably the best places.
And if people wanted to find your latest project, Two Hands Up, where can they go?
Well, you can go anywhere that you get music. except Bandcamp, but more on that later. But you can go anywhere else. Unfortunately, our distribution agreement didn't include Bandcamp, but you can go to iTunes, you can go to Spotify, you can go to Apple Music, you can go to Tidal, you can go anywhere where you can buy, download, or stream music. Please leave us a review, save it to playlists, do whatever you can do, and share, because I'm super proud of this album, and I want this thing to reach as many people as possible.
It's a good album, and I wouldn't be saying that just because I'm talking to you.
Thanks.
I mean it. I really did enjoy the songs from that album. So,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I shared that with a friend who's into conscious hip hop too.
Nice.
So.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah. So I'm just waiting. I mean, because I sent the video "Pray" to her, and I'm just initially, and she really liked it. So I sent the link to your Spotify link to her so she can check it out. So.
Nice. Oh, I appreciate that, dude.
Yeah, no problem. So, final question. What would be your message to the fans throughout the year?
Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for not giving up, for not firing me, and also not giving up on yourselves, man. I think that we're in some crazy times, and I think we got to stick together. We got to stay positive. We got to sometimes put the needs of others ahead of ourselves. And I think that we're going to come out of this better people as long as everybody is willing to learn and take the time to, just to give people a little more space. And I think we're going to be okay. But I think it's important to not get too down. I don't like using terms like new normal and things like that. I don't want people to think that this is going to be forever. And I think that's super important. You got to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and see the way out. And I do believe there will be a way out, but we got to all work together to get there. And that's it.
Well, Rand, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you. I appreciate you talking to me, man.
All right, well, folks, this is Joe from My Geek Scene speaking with Mega Rand. Take it easy.
Bye.